Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227. Or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet and I am here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. That was our closing music. Josh is not here. Good show. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm Dave Taffet. I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Doc's doing our recording. Our split personality board operator is not here, so I'm doing double duty. Our guests today are Yonkers, New York City Councilman Michael Sabatino and his husband Robert Voorheis. They were married in Canada in 2003 after a 24-year engagement, and they sued New York to recognize their marriage in 2006. Then they helped Thea Spire and Edie Windsor get hitched in 2007. And the rest, as they say, is history. And here to fill us in on some of that history are Michael Sabatino and Robert Voorheis. Michael and Robert, welcome.
Hi, David.
How are you?
David.
Hello, welcome, guys.
And I'm just adjusting. Can you hear, guys?
Yeah, we can hear. Yeah.
Good. Tell us a little bit about, just give us a little bit of your background. First of all, Michael, you're a city council person in my hometown, Yonkers, New York.
Yes, actually the first out gay elected official in the city.
Congratulations. I'm proud of that. You don't recognize or represent my district.
No, I don't think I do.
Because I was up by Nathan's.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm on the west side of the city.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, my district runs from the Hastings line to the Bronx line. It's the most gerrymandered line in the city.
Yeah, we don't know anything about gerrymandering here in Texas. We just have good, honest districts for everything, don't we?
Oh, they're like squares and ovals.
Oh, yeah, just perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right. Yeah, we would never do something like that, but New York politics, what can we say?
Actually, it's working in my favor, so I won't complain.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about, how did you know Thea Spire, and you're still friendly, of course, with Edie Windsor. Tell us about that relationship a little bit.
Okay, well, just a little background. Robert and I were involved with marriage equality in New York since 1998, even before the gay groups would even, assist us. I mean, it was a group of about 10 grassroots people. And, we were fighting for it, and everyone told us we were crazy. But as you know, where we are now, I guess we weren't so crazy. Mm-hmm. But in 2006, Edie came to a meeting, a marriage equality meeting, and she sat down next to me and leaned over to me and said, "I need help." And I said, "Well, what's the problem?" She said, "Well, my partner is very sick. She's got multiple sclerosis. We really need to get married, and we have to get to Canada." So she knew me, not personally at the time, but I used to do all the blogging on marriage equality issues for the Empire State Pride Agenda, which is our LGBT lobbying group here in the state. And she knew my name. So Robert and I talked to her, at the end of the meeting, and we told her that we had a friend, Brendan Fay, who with Jesus LeBron started the Civil Marriage Trail, similar in nature, I guess, to when the slaves were coming up from the South, they had a trail. And he organized and brought people to Canada. So within a few days, I introduced Edie to Brendan Fay, and then Brendan pretty much helped her get her wedding organized and get Thea up there, which was a real challenge, given that she was wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
And I guess, as they say, the rest is history. And then Brendan also helped link her up with Robbie Kaplan, because when Thea died, Edie called me because Lambda Legal represented us in our legal case, and she wanted me to talk to Lambda Legal to ask them if they would take her case when she got hit with that estate tax bill. And Lambda felt at the time it wasn't the right time.
Or the right composition of the court.
Right. So they were hesitant in taking the case. So, as you know, Robbie Kaplan took it on and the ACLU joined, and that's, you know...
Now, Patti is going to tell you, we always predict things here on the air. And for years I've talked about... What have I talked about, Patti?
And I've had to, for the last 15 years, I've had to tell listeners, you know, David, please don't bore our listeners talking about New York and taxes. New York and taxes. It's just on and on. He just blather on. And then...
I don't blather.
Damn it! What was the case that actually won, like killed off Section 3 of DOMA? Was Windsor? It was New York and taxes.
Yeah, to be more specific, in talking about marriage equality, David has always said, what's going to win this thing is going to have to do with taxes.
And
the
reason that
that was it.
The reason that made sense to me is because, you know, Edie's case was perfect. If she was married to a man, she pays $0. If she's married to a woman, she pays more than $300,000. And that's on a tax that right-wingers hate. Perfect case.
And she couldn't have been a better plaintiff.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, one of the first women or the first woman IBM programmer. You know, and unfortunately their estate was worth maybe $5 million, and this is what happened. And the interesting thing is, you know, when we used to, you know, Robert and I have our own story to tell, but after a while we didn't tell our story anymore. We just told Edie's.
Well, we have an hour, so we're going to hear it.
We're going to get to yours.
But the interesting thing that we were talking about the court cases, the very interesting thing is, and lawyers, is when we first wanted to go after New York State's discriminatory laws on marriage recognition, we went to Robbie Kaplan.
Interesting.
And she turned us down.
And Lambda
Legal did take us on.
Interesting.
So it's very interesting that the reverse happened for Edie Windsor. But we're very happy that it happened because it was a dynamic team that brought the downfall of that third part of DOMA. But it was just very interesting that we crossed our lawyers to make it happen.
What do you know? What propelled Edie to keep pushing after Lambda Legal turned her down? Because a lot of people would have just said, okay, you know, if one of the highest ranking or respectable gay and lesbian legal groups said no, that would have been enough to deter a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's just that she realized how wrong this was. And to her, it wasn't so much about the money, it was the principle of the thing.
Absolutely.
It was.
You know, and she said, and she told us during the whole process when it was going to the appeal stage, because she had 3 ways she could appeal this case. She could rule, she could ask them to rule solely on her case alone. Or she could ask them to rule solely for the circuit. Or she could ask them to rule for the country.
And she said,
it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about what's right, and it's about the future.
And she was incensed that, you know, that she was being charged this amount of money. And don't forget, that was only the federal. She also had $200,000 in state estate taxes.
Right.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, see, that's really new to us. We don't have state
spectrum.
taxes here.
Going the broad spectrum was the riskiest part. If she just asked for her money back, they most likely would have done that, and it would have been the end of it. She would have gotten her money back. And I left that little point out. they said that they could almost guarantee she would get her money back. But she said, it's not about me. I don't care if I don't get the money back. Yeah, I'd like to get the money back, but it's not about me. It's about what is right under the law.
Well, we certainly could not have dreamed that we would have such a woman of class.
Yeah.
I mean, she is the epitome of class. When she was standing on the steps of the Supreme Court after the ruling was made, I was so proud. It made me cry.
But that's
it was
part of
just
what made her the
amazing.
perfect plaintiff in the case. She was perfect in every way.
She was so eloquent and poignant, and
Yep.
I think won a lot of hearts and minds that moment.
And
Yeah.
85, and at 85, she's still going. And a very interesting story. We were with her just prior, right after. Was it right before she went to the court?
It was the night before. It was the night before we went out we went to her, met her at her hotel for drinks.
And she had some family members there, and they brought out a bottle of wine. And what was the bottle of wine, Robert? What was the name of it?
It was Thea's Vineyard.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
And we looked at the bottle and I said, we've won. To me, that was a sign. We've won. And
That's
it was,
so awesome.
We still had to wait that whole time, but I knew we had won.
Yeah.
Just by that sign.
Well, let's go back to your story, because your lawsuit actually predated hers.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us your story. You were engaged for 24 years.
Right.
No shotgun wedding there.
No. And we wanted to get married, and we were waiting for Massachusetts to come through. But my mom was 84 years old, and we said, you know what? Let's just do it while we can. In fact, we were both in Canada in June of 2003. I was on a business trip, and Robert went home. The day after he went home, Canada overturned the marriage, the ban on marriage for same-sex couples. So I called him up and I said, do you want to come back? I said, and we'll get married. You come back. And he said, no. Let's plan something. Let's see what we're going to do. So we planned a wedding for October of that year, and we invited about 50 guests, because that's the only amount of people that the hall would hold. We got married overlooking Niagara Falls in the Minolta Hotel. So we had 50 friends and family, and my mother walked us both down the aisle.
Wow.
And
nice.
as we were walking down the aisle, now this gets pretty corny, this huge rainbow came out over the fall.
It was such a dramatic
Everybody
rainbow.
was looking at the rainbow instead of us coming in.
We walked in, and everybody's head was turned looking out the window, and they're all going, ooh.
Perfect, though. What a
It
statement.
was perfect. What a great time to see a beautiful rainbow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So then when we came back, the week after we came back, which is the other side story to ours, Robert and I had been singing in a Catholic church choir in the Bronx, where I grew up, and I had been there about 32 years, and he was singing with me for about 25. And the week after we got back, we went to the rehearsal space. We saw the Monsignor, we just kind of waved hello, whatever. That very following Sunday, he met us on the church steps with my 84-year-old mother and proceeded to tell us that we could no longer sing in the choir.
Wow.
Well,
And I said to him, why? He said, well, you got married. I said, yeah, but we're not asking the church to recognize our marriage. Well, you went public. Now, the reason why I said we went public was our wedding announcement was in the Times, because Robert was, at the time, the co-executive director of Marriage Equality in New York. And it was, and the local Westchester paper where we lived wrote a story about us. It was titled "The New Faces of Marriage," and it was a whole story on us going to Canada, getting married, and all that. It had a picture of us. Now, of course, little did we know that it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday edition, but little did we know it was going to be a dead news day. So we were on the front cover above the fold.
Oh, wow.
On the newspaper, the Sunday edition. So there was no way you could miss our picture. And that filtered down to the Monsignor at our church. So he proceeded to say that I'm going, you can no longer sing. So I said, well, Monsignor, I said, are you going to, I'd like something in writing. He said, you're not going to sing today. I said, well, are you going to ask all the divorced and all the people that practice birth control to leave? Well, they didn't go public. So we have a rehearsal. We were there for a rehearsal before the service. And as we were walking down the aisle to go back to the choir, knowing that we were going to tell them we had to leave, he stood behind us and said he would shut the choir down.
Wow.
Wow.
Good Christian that he is.
Yes.
I think that's a good Christian. No?
Would that, it almost implies, though, that if you'd gotten married and kept quiet about it and hidden and in
Yes.
shame, that would have been okay.
Yeah,
Well,
don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Wow.
So is this Monsignor gay?
At the time.
Wow.
And,
Michael?
we
Michael?
proceeded to, yeah.
Michael?
Yeah, was this Monsignor gay?
Well, one doesn't know, but
One doesn't know for sure.
sure.
Until he
We'll
comes
leave it at
public,
that.
right?
Right. He didn't go public.
No. So, I mean, it was very unfortunate. I mean, first of all, having no sense with my mother there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would think. So we took off our robes. All of the older women in their 70s and 80s were crying, and they all wanted to walk out. And we said, listen, finish singing today, and then you could decide what you want to do. Ultimately, half the choir never came back.
Wow.
But as we were leaving the church, the Monsignor said, oh, I hope you're all right. I'll be praying for you.
Oh, please.
And when he said that, I said, Michael said, are we all right? And I said, Monsignor, we don't need your prayers.
Mm-hmm.
You may be a Catholic, but you are not a Christian. And we walked away. It's the last words I ever spoke to him.
Wow.
Well, you want my take on this? You were going to church in the Bronx. What's wrong with Sacred Heart? It's right in the middle of your district.
I know, right around the corner.
St. Eugene's, Annunciation, lots of good Catholic churches in Yonkers.
Michael, he's
Notice
grown
how I'm
up in
pronouncing it, everybody.
I
noticed.
I'm listening to people from, when I go up to New York, I really don't pick up the accent because I'm visiting cousins on Long Island, and I don't pick up. I start listening to people from the Bronx and Yonkers, and I pick up the accent again, which I.
Now, Robert grew up in Alabama, so he's acquired one.
Good. How long have you actually lived in Yonkers?
32 years.
Yeah, almost a native by Texas
Wow.
standards.
Yeah, actually, I'm living in Yonkers longer now than I lived in the Bronx.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
So we need to take a break.
Sure.
And I have a couple of questions about Yonkers schools that I want settled right now.
And I have a quick
but-
question when we come
try.
back
Just
Yeah,
on
about.
the
okay.
Just
Well,
on the education.
But
fair,
but
I'll
this
help.
the school board schools come under city council in New York, so it's like here. Our school districts are separate taxing entities, separate governments, and don't overlay with the cities necessarily. Anyway, we have a game. Now, we usually play a game called Who Wants to Be a Lesbian? But we're not going to do that with you. I've created a game called He's not even originally from Yonkers. He's only lived there for about 30 years. So does this transplant know jack about the greatest city on the Hudson?
Okay.
So we're going to take a break. Stick with us. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink and Lerone Landis. We'll be back with more right after this.
This is Janice McCall from TCU, and I listen to the Lambda Week on 89.3 Knon FM, Dallas.
And this is Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here with Lerone Landis. Our guests are Michael Sabatino and Robert Voorheis from Yonkers, New York. Patty.
I read your New York Times wedding announcement, which I just thought was wonderful. And I noted in there, Michael, that you have a company that's based in Carrboro, North Carolina, and that's kind of an LGBT kind of iconic little town too. They have they're like one of the first openly gay mayors, I believe.
Yes. Yes, Mark. I know Mark.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have all kinds of connections.
Yes.
First happening everywhere.
Okay, so before we find out just how much you know about Yonkers. And actually, I'm pronouncing it the way we did on the east side of Yonkers.
Okay.
The tradition. Do you know what the traditional and the original pronunciation of the city's name is?
New York.
No. No, and we'll get to that, Miss Patti Fink.
Yonkers?
What, Yonkers?
Yes,
Yonkers,
Dutch.
because which means young heirs, young gentlemen, because it was farming land along the Hudson. Okay, so schools, which I'm doing this because people here in Dallas need to know about this. That they called me and said, ask these things.
We're having our own controversy here.
Yeah, okay. So this is quick. My high school, I went to Roosevelt, had a 95% graduation rate and an 80% matriculation rate to college at the time I went. Now, in the 75 years since I've been in school, the system in Yonkers has sharply declined to far better than anything you would find here in Texas. First of all,
okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, okay. Seriously, the graduation rate when Roosevelt was closed, it dropped to 80%. In Texas, that gets you an exemplary rating. Literally. Okay, so what I wanted to know, first of all, in your science classes in Yonkers, do you use the Bible as a textbook?
No.
No. Oh, okay. I'm just comparing school systems because it's what I've gotten used to here. Okay, so a wealthy suburb that's just a mile or so from here just banned seven books. Now, it's a wealthy suburb, so one of the books that they banned is a book called The Working Poor, because we don't want those kids to learn anything about that. But Toni Morrison, who taught at my college, her book Song of Solomon was banned and Siddhartha was banned. Which books has Yonkers banned lately?
I'm not aware that they've banned
okay, and do you have book burnings up there?
Haven't had any recently, not since I've been in office.
Oh, okay. So just a couple of questions. I just want people to get a little bit of the flavor. Now, when you closed Roosevelt, RHS closed after 100 years, and it was reopened as?
Early college.
Yeah, Yonkers Early College High.
High school.
YECH, Yech. What I want to know is, how do the cheerleaders, because football is all anybody's interested in high school here, how do the cheerleaders cheer for Yech?
I don't know, because I don't know that Early College has a football team.
Or cheerleaders, right?
They don't have a football team, and it's a high school?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
now football is not as big as it is down in the South.
We're not understanding the concept here.
It's a sin. You guys are living in sin not having a football team in your high school.
I mean, even these smallest
and some of that
schools
has to do
here
with
have them.
budget cuts as well.
Well, see, what we do here is we cut things like science.
In history.
In
those
history.
things. Yeah.
And
Oh,
music.
I thought you just
music.
modified it. I didn't realize you cut it.
Oh, no, we cut.
Well, first we
We
modify,
slice.
then we slice and dice and cut, because science, what are we going to do with it? You know?
Yeah, there's nothing concrete to that.
Yeah, you know, it's opinion.
You can easily get that covered when you go to church on Sunday.
Sure. Exactly.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right. That's right. So, the other thing I wanted to comment on was, you know, when I was in school in Yonkers, the elementary schools didn't have these names. Like, my elementary school is now Khalil Gibran Elementary School. We had good, solid numbers. I went to PS 28, and you did away with those.
Well, some of our schools are still but with numbers, and some have numbers and names, and some just have numbers.
Doesn't make sense to me. I like a good number, a good, solid number for a school, and that's it.
I think a number would be great. I really do.
Yeah, anyway, my high school class has a Facebook page, and several hundred of us are active on it, and it took the guy from Texas to find out about Yech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's relatively new. Yek is about 3 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there actually is a movement to return it to its original name.
Yes, because we don't like Yech.
Yeah, they're really looking to say, you know, this is the you know, great that it's early college, but and we call it Roosevelt. Roosevelt Early College, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Why when you have a school named after a president, can't those kids go to college?
Right.
You know, we did. So, anyway, are you ready to play Do You Know Anything About Yonkers?
Yes.
Okay. It's real simple. We'll ask the question in the form of a question, and you'll answer in the form of an I don't know or a, you know. Okay. So, we'll start with politics, since you're in politics, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When Florida couldn't figure out which presidential candidate had the most votes and couldn't assign its electors, leaving the Democrat one elector short of a win, the race went to the House of Representatives. Now, of course, I'm talking about the 1876 presidential race, but any Yonkers school kid would know that.
Right.
The Republican House threw the election to the Republican Rutherford B. Hayes, but the Democrat who received more popular votes was...
Robert, you want to take that one?
No, I don't want to take that one. You take that one.
Oh,
You see, they're not
it
products
wasn't-
of the Yonkers school
I
system.
know who it was.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't Untermeyer. It
Nope.
was, starts with an L.
No,
No?
no.
Oh, I know
Was
this.
that Tilden?
Samuel Tilden, the mayor
Yes,
of
Tilden.
Yonkers.
Yep, Tilden.
Samuel Tilden, very good.
Samuel Tilden.
Yeah, and that's the last time a mayor was ever the presidential candidate. So,
Yeah, I did
really?
know it.
Yeah.
Tilden. I knew you knew it. I knew it, but I couldn't think of it.
yeah, Sam,
Bravo, you guys. This is
anybody who went to Yonkers school would know. You know, that's kind of like in Texas, you learn about the Alamo. Okay,
Right.
2 Broadway shows have had the name Yonkers in the title. You know, Hello Dolly took place in Yonkers, but doesn't have the name in the title. What were the 2 shows?
Lost in Yonkers.
Yeah, by Neil Simon.
What's the other one?
And what was the other one? I don't know.
The Merchant of Yonkers, which was rewritten later to be The Matchmaker, which was adapted into Hello Dolly.
Hello, Dolly, yeah.
Okay.
wow.
Okay, in 1894, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island voted to do something. Yonkers voted not to do it. What did they
Become
vote?
one of the boroughs.
Yeah. Yeah, Yonkers could have been the 6th borough.
Sixth borough.
Right.
And sometimes it's still referred to as the sixth
Right.
borough.
Right. Okay, skyscrapers wouldn't be possible without this 1853 Yonkers invention. What was it?
Otis Elevator.
Remained the largest industry in the city until 1983.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, now, Steven Tyler was expelled from and Mary J. Blige dropped out of which high school now known as Yech?
Roosevelt High School.
That's right. And can I point out that I graduated while they've done major drugs and have had major careers. I've been here on KNON for 30 years. Just thought we'd do that a little
And
bit.
don't forget, one of our astronauts graduated from Roosevelt High School.
Oh, which one?
The African-American one, I have to look him up. I don't remember his name.
A fairly recent one. One of the.
One of the space station ones.
I'll get it
Yeah.
to you before
Oh,
we
okay.
go.
Great. Okay.
I was about to say, it wasn't McNair who was killed in the Challenger explosion.
No,
No.
he's still alive.
He's still alive.
Okay.
Okay. We have lots of marriage equality news this week, and I want to talk to you about these things, but this is what happened this week. Montana and South Carolina became marriage equality states on Thursday. Kansas became an equality state, sort of, earlier this week.
Somewhat.
Well, only 9 counties began issuing licenses, and the state announced that they were complying with court orders by issuing licenses, but no one said they had to recognize those marriages, so they're not.
So they're not recognizing their own marriages.
That's it.
In
Right.
Kansas.
In
That
Kansas,
won't-
yeah.
That won't last long. but-
Okay, now also this week, the Arkansas Supreme Court heard an appeal of its lower court's marriage ruling, and we don't know how they're going to rule, but one of the judges asked, now would a state be allowed to discriminate against any other minority for any other reason? Mm-hmm. Yeah. A Missouri judge this week struck down that state's marriage discrimination law, and a U.S. judge in Mississippi indicated that a quick verdict was coming in that discrimination case, also was asking the same sort of questions about discrimination.
Yeah, and then Robbie Kaplan's litigating that case.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I'm just going to ask, here we are in 2014 still grappling with this, trying to get nationwide marriage equality. And, you guys got married in Canada the year that it went nationwide. There are 11 years ago, 2003. What was it like when you were actually there? You know, what was the atmosphere like amongst the people in Canada? Were they welcoming or?
Oh, totally welcoming. When we went into the clerk's office, we had to go up early, but obviously they don't have a waiting period, but you have to be there during a weekday to get your license. So we went up the Friday before we were getting married, and we walked in and said, we're here to get a marriage license, and they said, I guess they could tell from our accents we weren't locals, and they said, well, you're from the United States, right? And we said, yes, we are, and
you should have just said, you should have said to them, "Eh?"
Okay,
they
go ahead.
were so accommodating and so helpful and so excited. And we sat down and had a conversation with them because we told them that, I was the co-exec of Marriage Equality New York, and the struggle that we were doing. We were, fighting in New York, and they couldn't have been more helpful and more excited that we were there.
And they said that most of the couples they had come to get licenses were together 15 years or more. Was the most common thing that they had seen.
Yes.
Right.
And then we, there's an after story about this, but, we left them where we sent them the article about us being in the newspaper, which came back to us later in a different way. We got introduced in a roundabout way to these two guys, Gus Aquila and
Elmer Larkin.
Elmer Larkin. They were featured in the New York Times Magazine. They were together 58 years. And they got married in Niagara Falls, Canada as well, about a month after us. And we saw their story in the newspaper, so we sent them a little card. They sent us back a card saying, oh, yeah, we know all about you because the clerks gave us the article that you were in when we got our marriage license.
Wow.
They were together 58 years at the time. They lived up until Elmer died last year. They died at 97 and 94. They were together 65 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they said it wouldn't last.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Wow.
Well, I got married in Canada 4 years after you guys did, in 2007, and I echo everything that you just said. They were just so welcoming and excited. They were excited to see us. I didn't expect that.
It was so thrilling.
Well, Lerone had to get married. They were expecting a child. and
by the way, the astronaut's name is Ron Garan.
Oh, okay.
Garan, and he spent 6 months in the International Space Station.
Wow.
And 3 years in
A
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt High School graduate.
Wow.
See, some of us do make good.
I mean, don't forget, it's the home of Ella Fitzgerald.
Oh, wow.
Just dedicated a street to Sid Caesar, who grew up here.
Grew up here, rather.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And, there are a lot of famous people because it's right next to New York City, so easy commute. It wasn't my school, but a friend of mine went to the school. Art Carney's kids went, Art Carney used to just show up at all the school events. He was a great parent. He was active in the PTA.
A friend of ours is dating his son Brian.
Well, how nice. And the other one, right in my neighborhood, W.C. Handy Place, because Mrs. Handy lived there when I was a kid. So, with all that's going on right now and how fast it's happening this week, I mean, what I listed is what happened this week. That's this week's news.
Yeah, this week was just crazy. I mean, it's just like it's really well beyond what we ever expected.
Really, when we started this whole movement back in the late '90s, I said I will be so thrilled if we were able to get married on our 50th anniversary. That to me would have been a success, just to be able to get a legal marriage license by our 50th anniversary. Well, as you said earlier, and is the fact, we got married on our 25th anniversary. And then I said, Well, now when we celebrate our 50th, I'm hoping that the entire country will have marriage. And it's our 36th anniversary this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And we're well on the way to that. We're going to beat that.
Well, there are 15 states to go, and several of them, like Arkansas, is close. Mississippi is close. And Lerone, when we were listing which states, what did I say was going to be way before Texas? I said Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Right.
Now, it won't be the whole country by the time you get to your 50th. It'll just be the 49 states and then Texas. You know?
We will go down kicking and screaming.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, I mean, why would we want all of our citizens to be treated equally? I mean, surely we don't want that.
Right.
Well, I think Texas is going to go along, but, there's just no glory in being number 49.
Well, you know what, though? Louisiana, Lambda Legal advanced their request and has now requested that the case in Louisiana is to be heard by, or asked to be heard by the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
They're skipping the middle level there.
Yeah.
The Fifth Circuit.
They're skipping the Fifth Circuit now. Okay.
They're trying to. Yeah.
Trying to.
Yeah.
We're slated before the Fifth Circuit on the 9th of January.
Right.
Right.
Texas
right.
is.
So, we'll see. My gut is that this is going to be over, and I don't think we're going to have to wait till June. I think they're going to hear one of these 5 cases at the moment, and I think a decision will be rendered before June.
Right.
I'm almost going to say, and I'm going to predict, that Roberts and Alito is going to vote with the other 5.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, see, I kind of made the same prediction with Robert. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if he went our way.
They weren't
his legacy.
They weren't able. Right. It is his legacy, and he can go either on the side of history or not.
Right. And if you notice in the last rulings on stays, only Thomas and Scalia have written that they would have stayed those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really only Scalia.
Right.
Really?
Because Thomas never speaks.
Well,
I thought Thomas denied one.
He did deny one, while Sotomayor has given 2 of them.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But
interesting.
that is interesting.
It's when
You would think the 2 lesbians on the court would be our friends.
Come on now.
What?
Do we know that?
I'm just suggesting that
They haven't gone public.
Okay, there you go.
well, one could use that same argument for the people who are screaming and kicking the most.
Right.
True.
Very
Absolutely.
true.
Protest too much.
That's exactly what it is. You know what? We need to take another break. You're listening.
But I'll just note really quickly that the night before that decision, we're all going to drink from a bottle of Deep South wine.
Okay, well, we can get some from Alabama. We have connections.
Excellent.
You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. Our guests are Robert Voorheis and Michael Sabatino. Michael is a City of Yonkers city councilman. Robert Voorheis, former director of Marriage Equality New York. We'll be back with more right after this.
Thanks to the GLBT Wedding Expo, and you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 KNON FM.
And this is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink and with Lerone Landis. Our guests are Michael Sabatino and Robert Voorheis. They're from Yonkers. Yonkers.
I was curious, guys. Though you got married in Canada, after that, marriage equality became legal in New York. Did you do it again there? Did you?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't, because Lambda Legal advised us not to do it.
Oh, that's
for several
interesting.
reasons.
Why? Yeah.
First of all, many states do not. New York happens to be one of the states that does allow you to get married as long as it's to the same person again. Mm-hmm. But a lot of states do not, because the marriage is legal. And since we had a case that we fought on recognizing our marriage, they didn't. First of all, it wasn't necessary, and second of all, they said it just confuses things, because then you have 2 legal documents.
Right. And since we won marriage recognition, for us to then go and get a New York license is pretty much saying, well, it wasn't recognized.
Right.
So,
And the interesting thing is...
yeah, we didn't mention this earlier, but I know what Michael's going to say right now.
The interesting thing is that our case is referenced in Edie's case.
Oh,
Interesting,
Is
really.
it?
Yes. The case we were in was Godfrey versus Spano.
right.
And our case was surrounding our county executive, Andy Spano, had issued an executive order recognizing our marriage.
That's right.
And then 3 New Rochelians decided to sue the county because the county was giving people benefits that they weren't entitled to. So we went
Tell
through...
them what those benefits were because they were so numerous.
Yes. I mean, if you were a state or a county worker, you would get all the benefits. But if you weren't a county worker, we would have gotten a family pass to the park.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's what he was giving us. Oh, my God. He was giving us.
So, anyway,
Wow.
we
generous.
we were approached by Lambda to be a plaintiff couple, and of course we went through the whole 3-year process all the way up to our high court. So when Edie's case came along, the opposition, the Alliance Defense Fund, which I don't know what their name's now, there's something else, ADF something, they turned around and sued and were saying that Edie's marriage was not legal because she got married in Canada. So they referenced our case in the Doma case to document that her marriage was indeed legitimate.
Gotcha.
Well, especially
Wow.
in New York, you can find thousands and thousands of Canadian marriages
Oh,
Exactly.
that are
And
legal in the
that
United
was our
States.
point.
Yeah.
yeah,
that
from
was our
other
point.
places in the world, too.
I was gonna say, I'm sure not just Canada.
Well, I'm just saying in New
Yeah.
York especially, since
Right.
very long
Right,
border
exactly.
with Canada,
Right.
lots and lots and lots of people move back and forth
Yeah,
across
a
the
lot of
border.
people go to Niagara Falls or did go to Niagara Falls to get married.
Yeah, well, it was a fun destination, and we certainly had a fun time going there. We were so thrilled that we could go to Canada to get married. I would much prefer to have gotten married in my own state, absolutely. But we felt we needed to, for our own well-being and comfort and legal issues, we felt we needed to get married now. And, of course, the emotional one, we wanted his mom, Michael's mom, to be a part of that ceremony because she was the only parent we had left.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
And it was a very funny story when we were coming back over the border, so because we all flew into Buffalo, and then we rented vans to take the people over to Niagara Falls. So when we were coming back, we had to replace the vans. Now, Robert, what happened? Did I have your passport, or what?
No, we had separate. We had our own passports,
But we
you
were
in the van
driving
in front of me.
separately.
Yeah,
And
because I was driving
the-
a van and Michael was driving a van.
And I was the lead car, so I started to explain to him that we came here to get married, and my husband's in the car behind us. And he said, "You just got married and you're already separated?" You know, he was making a joke about it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I want to say that was probably one of the nicest times we've had border crossings because we had several issues dating back as far as the Clinton administration crossing the border. Every year, well, not every year, but many years, we would, many times we travel out of the country and most frequently to Mexico or to Canada on vacation. And every time we re-entered the country, and this is, of course, after our marriage fight, and we were so adamant about it, we would approach the immigration officer, and he would say, "Well, are you related?" And we would say, "Yes, we're married." We'd say, "Yes, we are." And he'd say, "Well, are you brothers?" And we said, "No, we're married." He said, "Well, we don't recognize it, so one of you has to step back."
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, and I've said, and Michael has said in various times on all of these instances, "No, we will not separate. You will not divide us. You will have to call a supervisor."
And we shut down the line.
And we shut down the
You
line.
know, I've done that. I was flying back from Asia with a partner that I had been with for about 10 years at the time, and this was about 1990 or 89. We were coming into the country through Honolulu, and we just packed everything together because everything needed
You
to
do
fit
that.
into the suitcases.
You
You
do
do
that.
that. And
Right,
we had been
right.
we had been in Hong Kong, and so we did lots of shopping. Well, I had the receipts, and my partner, we were ready to walk up to get, no, just one of you. So my partner did a great job of saying things like, "I don't know, he has the receipt. I don't know, he has the receipt. No, that's not mine, that's his." So finally, after about 15 minutes, she just, you could tell she was as annoyed as could be. she just indicated, and I walked up, and she just put us both through together. We came within, luckily, $4 of the limit. We didn't have to pay any duty. And she just split it, that, okay, half of this is yours, half is his. But you just pack together. It doesn't make sense for two people traveling together who live together, married or not,
right,
to separate them.
Yeah, so we stopped the line at least 3 times.
Good.
And we had one agent. We were coming back from Vancouver, and in Vancouver, the American agents are in Canada to receive you. And he just said, well, you're going to have to find another way to get back into the country. And I said, well, I don't think so. I think you're going to call a supervisor. And the
well, that was the other way.
And generally they would say, okay, process them together, but they have to fill out separate customs forms. So,
Wow.
Like he was so angry because we'd usurped his fiefdom, and he was, I mean, if he could put a hole through our passport, he would have. He was hitting it so hard with his stamp.
Right.
Wow.
And he did this in Canada.
Yeah.
in Canada.
Yeah, but it was the U.S. immigration.
Yeah, sure.
And that was the interesting thing, after having the one at Niagara right after we got married, saying, oh, you're already separated, and joking about us being in separate cars.
I want to talk about one other thing. When marriage equality became legal in New York, or when New York adopted marriage equality, it went through the legislature and it passed.
Yeah.
And you had a very supportive governor, just like we do.
Right. But now that was the second time around now. That
Right.
was not the first time.
Well, tell the story of how it actually became legal in New York.
Well, this is Robert. I was actually then on the, I was no longer the chair on the board, but I was one of the volunteer lobbyists for so I wasn't an official licensed lobbyist, but I was just a constituent lobbyist. And I went up to Albany every week for 6 months. And I would spend 2 or 3 days there knocking on every assembly member and every senator's door. That was my job with the coalition and working with marriage equality. So this was, just going there knocking on doors and especially visiting the ones that had sort of wavered the first time around, and we were hoping to get solidly the second time around. And I just had, some people, and I would sit down and have intelligent, calm conversations with both Republicans and Democrats, explaining the issue. So it was a concerted effort between the groups, the organizations. Finally, we were all working together. The reason we lost in 2009 is because everybody wanted to have their own glory and say, I did it, you didn't, ha-ha. Well, that didn't work because we failed. But if all working together, we all took a piece of our best responsibility. Marriage Equality is a grassroots organization. We are a nationwide organization now, and we only have 2 paid employees. Everybody else is a grassroots volunteer. And that's what we brought to the table. We got the grassroots masses out to knock on doors. We relied on HRC and the Empire State Pride agenda to bring money and to bring other things into it. But we did what we did best.
And the governor specifically built this coalition. And this is a model that's being used in other states.
Yes.
Doing the coalition. Because, as it works with groups, everyone has their egos, and, this group doesn't want to work with any group. It doesn't matter if you're all gay, you know what happens. And,
it took everybody. It took everybody working together to make it happen. So everybody has a part in that history of making it. I like to say, but our bill is named after marriage equality. So,
which we coined that word several years ago.
Yeah.
When we first started, and actually, we didn't file suit, but we sent a legal notice to HRC at one point because they were using the word marriage equality without our permission. So, that's where the origin of marriage equality came.
But, it was just all of us working together to make it happen. And when I went to one, a senator who was a Republican, and he had voted against it it was my last meeting with him, and he sat down, and we had brought some constituents who were. We had a gay man and a lesbian woman sit down to talk to him, tell him how it affects them not to be married.
It's always about telling the story.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had one of my fellow lobbyists had he was Jewish, but he and his husband had adopted an African American child. So he was explaining from, a double whammy.
Yep.
So when we sat down and talked with him, he said, at the end of the meeting, he said, I will not tell you how I am going to vote, but just know that I have learned.
And my wife lobbies me every day at breakfast.
But that's what he said to us. And when we walked out of there, I said, he's a yes. And he indeed was a yes.
And he was a Republican. Oh, no, he was a Democrat, right?
No, he was a Republican.
He was a Republican, yeah.
But he indeed changed his vote and supported it, and it was one of those votes we needed.
And we sat in that gallery for 4 days waiting for that vote.
Wow.
Living off a vending machine, because if you got up, you lost your seat. If you were gone more than 5 minutes.
Yeah. We were only out of bathroom break, so we would get up. One of us would be the designated bathroom person, and we would run downstairs to the vending machine, stuff our pockets with stuff that we could surreptitiously eat because we were not allowed to bring food in, and rush back up. So we would at least have something in our stomachs while we were sitting there, anxiously awaiting.
And an interesting thing happened also. We were staying with friends up in Albany, and about 2 years prior to that, I had lost my original commitment ceremony ring. We had a commitment ceremony in 1979.
Wow.
At Washington Square Methodist Church. And it was a very cold day, and I figured that the ring had fallen off, or, it was loose on my finger and everything. So while we were up at our friends, my jar that had all our vitamins in it opened up and fell into my knapsack, and I reached down, and the ring that must have been sitting there for 2 years came up on my finger.
Wow. That's a statement.
As he looked at me with that ring on his finger, and again, just like I did with Thea and Thea's Vineyard Wine, I said, it's over. We won.
And I don't know if the ring was sitting there all the time. Part of me thinks my mother put it there after she passed. I don't know. But I was in and out of that damn knapsack for plenty of times in 2 years. Never saw the damn ring.
So maybe
it obviously came off when I reached in for my ticket.
Yeah.
And that's where it was.
So maybe the fact that I posted something about Yonkers Municipal Equality Index, and Michael got in touch with me and said, "Hey, I'm a city council person in Yonkers," and so I wrote back that, "Hey, I went to Roosevelt."
Right.
So maybe your being on the show is our sign that Texas will indeed be 50th. However, it'll be next year. We'll wait until Alabama says, "Okay, marriage starts tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock," and Governor Abbott.
I know.
Governor
I can't say it
Abbott.
either.
That's the first time I said that. We'll say, "Okay, we'll start at noon."
Right.
Yeah. So.
And of course, we have a Dallas connection with Laura McFerrin.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, absolutely.
Our documentary,
explain what
John,
that. Yeah.
which we're featured in her documentary.
Right.
If anybody hasn't seen it, go get March On. You can buy it online.
Right.
MarchOnMovie.com.
And Laura's fantastic. She's just a huge part of our community, and she's just amazing.
Yeah.
She's great.
Just really wonderful.
We only have a couple of more minutes. Okay.
I was thinking, we're seeing it certainly here in Texas. You're probably not seeing it in New York, but I think there's going to be a backlash that's coming because of marriage equality, because we're moving so rapidly that we're actually having some losses on things like partner benefits and ENDA issues.
And
I think
the number of hate crimes is up also.
Exactly.
Well, and that's something that we did predict when this happened, because we had hate crimes increase in New York as well.
Yeah. We did have an increase.
I mean,
and
unfortunately,
it's going to happen.
With any civil rights fight, this is what you got to contend with. But they'll all be overturned at some point.
I think so too, and I'm really thrilled that marriage equality has come first,
Right.
You know, because it's really kind of that in your home, in your face kind of thing.
Yeah.
That
And,
says we're
you know,
equal.
the rapid advancements that we have achieved with this would not have been possible without the women's rights movement, and it took them, took so long for women to be recognized
And they
as
still
human.
haven't gotten
Yeah, it
involved.
still hasn't happened, yeah.
And then the interracial marriage as well. The struggle in the civil rights struggle still continues, but we would not have seen such rapid progress if it wasn't for the shoulders upon which we stood.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And I know that gender is a big issue, and I mean our transgender brothers and sisters. I mean that's another big issue. But in all these states where we're going to have marriage, I mean, in a lot of states now we have marriage, but we don't have protections for jobs.
Right.
Exactly. We can be fired in Texas for being gay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Texas
it will
is one.
set the stage for legal action if that happens.
Absolutely.
Michael Sabatino, Robert Voorheis, thank you so much for being with us. We're completely out of time. I want to thank you.
Thank you guys
you're
so
very
much.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and come back we'll have you on again
I'm
sometime.
sure
I'd
we'll
love
be
that.
happy to come back when we get some more. We'll come back when Texas
Yes.
gets marriage equality.
There
on
we
the
go.
floor.
Yes, number 50 and all. We'll do it.
And bring
All right.
bring Edie Windsor with you next time too.
Okay.
Good. Our guest next week is Dolores DeLuce. She's the author of a new book called Blowjobs, A Guide to Making It in Show Business, or not. We'll see you next week.
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.